One of the things I've been up to since I last kind of did a solo podcast or whatever, was that, and we talked about it a little bit in our last Underachievers podcast, was that we actually all got together and went to Colorado. We finally did that Colorado trip, and if you are not familiar with it, we, as in on Underachievers Podcast, I always do it with Jeff Quake and Brian Appleby, and the three of us went out to Colorado as a wedding present from Brian and I to Jeff, as a little wedding present for him. So at the beginning of November, the first week in November, the three of us went out to Colorado to see a Oregon versus University of Colorado football game, because Jeff is a big fan of Oregon. Thursday was an interesting day. So, and we kind of talked about this a little bit on our last Underachievers podcast as well, where Brian forgot to bring a winter coat because he didn't really think it was necessary to go out in Colorado in November to bring a winter coat. But in fairness, I didn't bring one either because I figured just dress in layers and I would probably be warm enough. The only dumb thing I did was forget to bring more appropriate shoes for when he went hiking. And I'll explain more about what happened there and the 6 times that I managed to fall while we went hiking. And I'll explain that a little more when I get to it. I also have a little bone picking with booking.com, because that and the hotel we stayed at. Because for some reason, and I got the everything with it, I got the confirmation and everything that Tuesday or whatever, saying your room's booked, it's reserved or whatever, can't wait to see you kind of thing. The typical thing you'd see when doing a reservation or doing whatever. But for some reason, when he first got there, the first thing we did was we dropped off our stuff at the hotel, and we thought, oh, maybe because our check-in wasn't until like 4 or something like that, we thought, oh, maybe we can hopefully let them, they could take our stuff while we go explore Colorado, or hopefully we could get into the room early, kind of thing. And when we first went there, for some reason, they couldn't find me. They couldn't find my name in the reservation. So, which was kind of weird. We didn't really think about it. We just thought maybe because it was a newer guy kind of working the counter, so maybe he just didn't know. So we just said, can we leave our stuff here? We'll come back at like 4 or whatever, and check in then, or whenever we came back, we were going to go check in. And they were able to do that. They took our bags and we went out to just explore Colorado some, or to explore Boulder some. And when we did that, that's when it started to get a little cold, and Brian realized his mistake of not bringing a winter coat. So for the first few hours of being there after we had lunch, we just kind of shopped, went around downtown just looking at different shops for Brian to find a winter coat to have, just to wear, just to kind of check out, see if there was anything, because it was going to be really cold, and there, I think that night or whatever, there was a chance of snow, and spoiler alert, it snowed. That was still back when the Phillies were in the were battling the World Series, so we got to see. We're still kind of rooting for the Phillies, going to the bars, doing all that kind of thing, rooting for the Phillies. Which the one thing that surprised all three of us was how many people were either from Philly or said like "Go Birds" or "Go something." You're like, oh, that's very interesting. We didn't really expect it for being out there in Colorado. How often it would be that somebody would say, "Hey, go Birds," or something like that, or say, "Hey, you're from Philly," or just something like that. Like at least 5 people a day for the time we were there. We had someone say, "Oh, you're from Philly." "Yeah, I'm from Philly too," or "Go Birds," or something along those lines. But yeah, for Brian's sake, for that first day, going back to what I was saying, was that he ended up having to buy, he didn't have to buy it, but he bought a $500 winter coat, which Jeff and I teased him for the whole rest of the trip, which for him, he kept saying, and so was, a solid choice, because it was needed. It was pretty cold out. but it was a different cold. So it was cold, but because of the sun, the first few days, and after the snow, because it just snowed that night, that first night we were there, the sun was cold, but it didn't feel that cold. Like it was bearable. So that was the first night. Oh, sorry, back to the resort. So after we get done that, we go back to the room. We're going back to the hotel because we're gonna go check in, kind of shower, and get ready for dinner. And this is where I'm going back to my complaint with Booking.com, because for some reason still and no fault, maybe some fault, I don't know who's really to blame, the hotel itself or Booking.com, but for some reason the reservation wasn't there. They didn't have my reservation, and because of that they just kind of find me or whatever. So the people at the front desk were very apologetic, very nice, and everything, tried to help us. And because of that, we stood there for at least like 15 minutes or so, just trying to either check in, or at some point they're like, yeah, I need to contact Booking, so they could talk to Booking to try to figure out what the issue is or whatever. And when I went to go through that with Booking, I tried putting in the confirmation code and everything. It wouldn't put me through, so then I was trying to do it through online and everything, and it couldn't. When I put in the confirmation code correctly, could not find it. Could not find the confirmation code. At this point, I was livid, and I was about to lose my shit. And then finally, like, how much would it take just to buy a room for that night? And thankfully, they were allowed to. They kind of did an override because apparently all the rooms were kind of booked for that day. No more free rooms. But luckily, they did an override, and the better part was that they allowed us to. Instead of charging us more, they actually charged us the original price that we paid, for staying there. And really for us, and this is just in any kind of thinking for at least me, and for us too when you're down in Colorado, but for me specifically, it's nice to stay in a nicer hotel and everything, but for us and for that trip, it was just, we just needed a place to sleep. So for that, it didn't really matter. The hotel itself, it was probably like a 3-star hotel, for being completely honest. Like, I'm not trying to be a dick here. It's like, oh, it was the best hotel ever, but it worked for us. We had a rough start, but for the rest of the trip, it was fine. They were very helpful. And the next morning, one of the front people who were trying to help us had to leave early, and she saw us walk in. It's like, oh, were you able to figure it out and everything? We're like, yeah, everything's kind of sorted out now. It's like, oh, good. So that customer service and everything there was top notch. That's one reason why I would kind of recommend it. But if you're it wasn't the best kind of hotel. The bed was a little rough. Pillow's not my favorite, but outside of that, it was fine. It worked for us, and it was close enough to everything. So everything was pretty much walking distance, except for when a couple times where we had the Uber because we're going a little farther, or when you had to go out when we went hiking the second day, because that second day we were going to go early that morning to go hike, but because it snowed the night before, the plans had changed a little bit, because we're like, well, because of all the snow, maybe it wouldn't be the best to kind of go right now, so let it melt a little bit. Maybe we'll go tomorrow morning before the game started, because the game was that Saturday. And we're like, okay, let's just kind of explore Boulder a little bit. Let's walk around, let's see the campus and everything. We ended up walking in a giant circle. Just a giant circle that took us like 20 minutes. Because we were just trying to find where the stadium was, which was pretty much right next door. We could pretty much see the stadium from our hotel parking lot. And because of that, I'm all over the place because I'm trying to remember kind of everything we kind of did and everything. But we ended up just doing a giant kind of walk, giant circle. That took about like 20 minutes until we got to the stadium, kind of looked at that a little bit, took pictures of the mountains because it was beautiful out there. It's very beautiful out in Boulder, which was very nice. But then finally, we were like, why don't we just go? Because the snow was melting pretty quickly because the sun had come out and it felt actually pretty nice out for it being as cold as it was. So we kind of stopped by at a brewery. We had a couple of beers, and then after that, we decided let's just go hike. Let's find somewhere. We found this park, and our original thinking was, oh, this is going to be some lame kind of hike, because we thought, oh, park is in like a local park that you'd see kind of thing, and maybe from the park we just have close-up kind of views of the hike, because we thought, oh, let's just do this because it's a little hike. We'll get good pictures of the mountains and everything, and then tomorrow will be the actual hike. But that ended up not being the case, and was actually the really nice hike up the mountains and everything. And going back to why I keep mentioning that it snowed, that is where I finally come to the part of the story where I fell 6 times in Colorado. So, in my kind of dumb decision, because I should have because I just brought regular sneakers out and didn't really think. I brought other sneakers, like nicer sneakers, because there was going to be a night we wanted to go to like a nicer place to kind of spend because we were there. Because why not? That didn't really end up happening because we waited too long to try to get reservations and everything to find places, and everything was packed. So we just couldn't find anything. So we finally just kind of walked around, found a place that was like first come first serve, and we were able to get able to eat and everything. I just kind of explored more of Boulder that night. What was I saying again? Completely forgot what it was. I do this all the time. I just completely just forget what I was talking about. God, I'm dumb. Oh yeah, by IFO. The dumb part I did was the fact that I just brought just regular sneakers. Just not really thinking, oh, it's going to snow one of those days. Yeah, there might be a chance of snow, but it's only like a 40% chance. It's not going to snow. I should have brought more like of a walking shoe or like a hiking shoe just to have better traction. Because the higher we went up in the mountains and everything, the more like ice and slush and mixed with the snow and everything just got a little more slippery. Getting up was fine. I think I maybe feel like once, maybe twice. It was getting down where we were having more of the difficulty kind of standing on our feet. By we, I mean Jeff and I. Brian didn't fall once. I think he had one little slip, but he was able to catch himself. But outside of that, yeah. We got like beautiful like shots of everything, looking over Boulder, even from as high as we got, we could even see downtown Denver. It was a very beautiful scenery. It wasn't until we started going down when that's when it really hit. When I started to fall, every like 2 minutes, it felt like we would go down one rock, hit some snow, and then I'd follow my ass, and then go a little further down, do it again. I try being smart, like, oh, let's stay maybe to the side when we get closer to the ground, back to away from the mountain and off the mountain and everything, or back to the trail and everything. And I fell again, but this time it was like the 5th or 6th time I fell, and it wasn't no longer becoming, oh, this kid's. Now I'm worrying about this kid. Now it's just becoming funny because I've just fallen for like the 6th time, and even I'm laughing at this point because I'm like, Jesus Christ, I can't stay up. It's like, oh God. Oh, it was bad.